Life and faith, the two are intimately connected. For more than 2 decades, Life and Faith Television has painted pictures and told stories of faith journeys here in southwestern Ontario. Join us now as we continue the tradition. We explore the diversity in our lives of faith and the faith of our lives.
Good morning. It's good to see you again. And if you're new to Life and Faith, well, an especially warm welcome. Today we learn about the work of Transitional Ministry in the Anglican Church. Then a team of 4 United Church student ministers share their experiences of an innovative and modern way of training for full-time ministry. And for our last segment, we hear opinions from a multi-faith panel as they discuss the following question. Is science and reason compatible with faith in today's society? This is our most recent installment from Abraham's Cafe. Life and Faith takes us to St. James Anglican Church in St. Mary's to meet Reverend Canon France Ouimet-Wilson, who works in Transitional Ministry. Reverend Keith Nethery meets with her to help us better understand just what her work in that field involves.
Transitional ministry. What happens when, say, a church has had a pastor for a long time and suddenly they have to decide who they are and where they're going? Just one of the scenarios where our guest this morning on Life and Faith may be called in. The Reverend Canon France Ouimet-Wilson is a specialist in transitional ministry, currently at St. James and St. Mary's and St. Paul's Kirkton, and looking after the transition there. So, France, let's start at the beginning. How did you go from, quote, being in regular parish ministry to working in transitional ministry?
Well, when the diocese started with transitional ministry in 2008, I really felt called to explore that ministry. There was a sense that it was a ministry that was needed, that it tapped on the gifts of congregation, and to be able to see, who are we, what is God calling us to be. And it was a good fit with my gifts as well in terms of dealing with change and places that have a lot of energy.
So you had quite the training, you were telling me, and there is a lot of training available. Walk us through the process of the training to help you get your mind around this ministry.
Well, the champion of training for interim ministry is the Interim Ministry Network that is based in Baltimore in Maryland. And they have developed a range of training programs to support transition ministry, and they have lots of new areas that they look into as the world changes and as parish ministry changes. They are great resources.
So let's kind of talk about what transitional ministry is then. You get a call to go to a parish. How do you evaluate, how do you set up what would be useful in terms of transitional ministry?
Well, the first thing I do if we have a call to go in a parish, usually it goes through the archdeacon and the bishop's office, is to meet with the leadership of the parish and then to see what are the needs there, what are they looking for, what are they hoping for, what is the situation currently. And then I explain to them, what transition ministry is about, that it is a focus and intentional work, both from the congregation's part and my part as a priest, to work on pastoral care, on the whole administrative leadership, so that they're enabled to discern a renewed sense of who they are as a community in ministry. And then we talk about how this happens in a practical way. And generally, we will do a presentation to the congregation so that the congregation is engaged into that. And then they decide whether or not this is something that they feel they're called to do at this point in time.
So are there focuses, specific segments of things that you'll look at doing, different ways of evaluating and programs you can offer?
Yes, there's 5 areas that are key in terms of transition ministry. The ministry really is continuing the ministry of the parish, so in terms of worship, in terms of teaching, in terms of nurturing leadership and gifts. For this purpose, we form a transition team at the beginning of the ministry. And it includes 10 people from the parish who represent different segments. And that team assists and guides the priest in those 5 areas of work. And the first one is to come to terms with history. So we tell stories about the parish, we celebrate the past and all the gifts, and we see what values from the past we want to carry into the future. Also, what we would like to leave behind us. The other area of transition ministry is the whole area around identity. Now, who are we as a parish today? What are our gifts? What are our strengths? What is our field of ministry? What challenges do we face in our ministry today? The other area, of course, is the whole area of leadership development. How do we nurture gifts in a congregation? How do we encourage people to participate in ministry? How do we deal with power shifts, in our community? And then through the transitional process, there's a focus on strengthening the link with the diocese and the wider church. Sometimes there's a sense for congregation, particularly if we're struggling a little bit in our corner, that we're alone. The diocese is there and we're here, they and us. And truly, we're all in this together. And then last but not least is committing to new direction, to have a sense of what is our mission today, how do we see ourselves called in the future, and to make some plan for the future. And at this point, the congregation is pretty much ready to move into the process of selection.
This is your second opportunity to do a transitional ministry, the first in Cambridge and now St. Mary's and Kirkton. Give us some thoughts about how this works, how it's made you feel, the excitement of doing this ministry. Give us a bit of an evaluation after having your feet on the ground and doing it for a few years.
Well, one of the wonderful gifts of transitional ministry is that we have a lot of reminders of what a wonderful journey Christian life is. It's a little bit like the journey of the Hebrew through the desert, and that we always leave behind something we know that's familiar, and God calls us into something new. And one of the gifts for me personally is to go to congregations and to see that all the gifts are there. All the gifts are there, that we have more than we could ask or imagine.
Does it make a difference? Have you seen, as you go through this and as you talk with other people who have done a transitional ministry, how do you evaluate the difference that it makes rather than going, say, maybe from one long pastorate to another? How can you evaluate it?
Well, if, for instance, there is the anxiety level decrease in a parish that perhaps was very anxious about something in their life at that time, the anxiety level decreases and there's a sense of healing and reconciliation. It's a sign that the Spirit is at work through that period, that things are working well. There's a renewed sense of energy in the process of transition, and that's also a sign that things are progressing. People are engaged, people are participating, because in truth, the people are doing the work. I don't. I'm a catalyst in the process. And they do the work and they offer their gifts very generously. And that's the sign. When it starts happening, you know that the Spirit is at work and that things are moving.
Something you'd like to continue doing for a while?
I do. I'm really passionate about this. I find that it is the gift of time that God gives a congregation. It's the gift of being able to pause for a couple of years and to be able to really rediscover, who they are and have this renewed sense of ministry and of being able to be in the world and do what God is calling them to do.
A look into the world of transitional ministry with the Reverend Canon France Ouimet-Wilson. Thank you, France, for guesting this morning on Life and Faith.
Thank you, Keith.